Hello, good people. Welcome back to another Blast Message with Lady Nine, also known as Minister A. Okay, so the word for this video is: can you see yourself in your spouse? Can you see yourself in your spouse? Ask yourself that question. Okay, so God says don't be unequally yoked with the world, including your spouse. However, oftentimes we jump into relationships, situationships, um, dating arrangements without wise counsel, without the guidance of the Lord. Okay. And that's why, what they say, the U.S. has a 50% divorce rate right now. Okay. That's what it is. It's been that for a long time. It might have gone up. You hear what I'm saying? Because people are married for wrong reasons to the wrong people at the wrong time and things of that nature. And that's not what God really wants. So we're going to think about this in terms of Isaac, okay? So, Abraham and Sarah had Isaac. That's their promised child. You hear what I'm saying? And eventually Isaac grew up. So when it was time for Isaac to seek or obtain a wife, Abraham said, look, I want you to go over that way to my people. So again, during biblical times, it was really important to choose the right spouse, okay? So they often went back to their kinfolk, their clan, because they knew that it was good stock, meaning that they had good genes, good attributes, good qualities, good characteristics, and it also meant that they would keep their bloodline pure, and that these women will be taken care of properly by their spouses. Okay, that was important. Okay, so Abraham said, "Look, I want you to do." He sent the servant. He spoke to the servant. Go find my son a wife from this particular land. Okay, and let's go to Genesis. Okay, that's where we are. Genesis 24. Where did we want to start? So again, we're going to be at verse 15. It said, before he had finished praying, Rebecca came out with her jaw on her shoulder. Okay, so the servant prayed. Now, this is the thing. Sometimes folk, we choose what we want based on superficial qualities, really, appearances. That's what we choose people on. Sometimes it's what they worth financially, what they can provide, but God, again, he looks at people's hearts. He wants us to be able to identify people based on their spirit, based on their spiritual gifts, their spiritual levels in the kingdom. Yeah. What is their position in the spirit world? Are they kind, caring, concerned individuals, compassionate? Are they going to be empathetic? Because looks fade. Let's be honest. That's going to get old real fast. Real fast. So, again, the servant knew the benefits of seeking out counsel from the Lord. Wise counsel. That's the thing. Pray. He said before he prayed, Rebecca appeared. That's the thing. So in verse 21, it says, without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. So he watched her to ensure that the answer was actually from the Lord. Sometimes we'll wait. We jump out there. We'll wait to confirm that this is actually God speaking. This is what we want, but not necessarily what God wants for us. Okay, so the servant was diligent in his attempt to obtain a wife for Isaac, and Rebecca was the one. Okay, so we ain't gonna read every single verse, okay? Because you know what I'm gonna say. Read the whole entire Bible, and then it's reiterated in verse 45. It says, before I finished praying in my heart, Rebecca came out with her jaw on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water, and I said to her, please give me a drink. She quickly lowered her jaw from her shoulder and said, drink, and I'll water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. So they continued their conversation. But this is the key here. See, the servant was being investigative, but he was doing it incognito. He wasn't telling her, look, I'm watching you and see whether or not you're appropriate for my master. He was watching and seeing what she would do, how she behaved in the manner. When he asked for water, she was compassionate. Again, key words. We gotta look at verbs to define people characteristics instead of looking out at their outward appearances. So he saw that she was kind, caring, compassionate to him. Not only did she feed him or serve him with the water, she also fed the camels, which shows that she's caring and compassionate even to the animals, to the least of them. You hear what I'm saying? These are qualities you want to have in your mates. So he was so wise that he sought God's counsel, and then he was able to observe her in a natural setting. How she behaved on a regular basis. Because oftentimes we'll get people as representatives initially. When you first meeting somebody, that's the honeymoon phase. Everybody's nice and they kind. They holding the door. They talking a good talk. They treating you nice, taking your own dates. But why you think over time it merges? People say, oh, they lost their flavor. The thrill is gone. Because they was just showing you the side they wanted you to see, to lure you in, to attract you. Because who's going to jump in a relationship where it's on the onset it's just terrible? This person is horrible as soon as you meet. No, they have to be kind of nice in the beginning, but we want somebody who's going to be nice throughout, who's going to stand the test of time. So the servant, again, he was evaluating Rebecca just to see whether or not she was genuine and authentic with her behaviors and actions. And that's the thing. You have to know, whether or not individuals are coming to your life with good intentions, pure intentions. So here's the thing. Go down to 62, still in chapter 24 of Genesis. Now Isaac had come from Beer Lahai, for he was living in the Negev. He went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebecca also looked up and saw Isaac. Okay, so their eyes met, Ooh, I like this. It's getting juicy. Okay, so the thing is about love, that love at first sight idea or concept, that's a Disney concept. That's a fairy tale concept. However, we see here is biblical, So sometimes people can see that you're meant to be with a particular individual, or that it could be a great companionship, and they're able to identify. Again, we talked about arranged marriages at some point. Sometimes your family members, people with wisdom, who have gained wisdom over time, can actually identify traits in people that go hand in hand with someone else, and in this case, it was a servant. So the servant had made a good election, but then Isaac and Rebecca made a connection. That's how God intervene in your life. Yes. So you'll make the election, and then God will do the work. The rest of the work is a connection, a divine connection. So again, they looked at each other. So I'm imagining they're gazing in each other's eyes. Okay. She got down from her camel and asked the servant, who is that man in the field coming to meet her or meet us? Okay. So again, she didn't even realize that this is your future spouse. This is the one that, or the reason why you're here. So she's like, who is that? So again, the servant made the election, but God ensured that the connection would be valid. So the servant replies, he is my master. And so she took her veil and covered herself. There she go, exercising her modesty. You hear what I'm saying? And showing reverence and respect. That's essentially what the veil does in this instance. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother, Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Okay, so that's the key there. Okay. Like I told you all before, I told my son, marry somebody like your mother, okay? You should marry someone like your mother because, especially when you have a mother with positive attributes, good qualities, because you'll be comforted. You can't fail. You won't lose, in the end. And this is evident here. So again, he loved her. Can you see yourself in your spouse? I'm imagining at that first gaze, they were able to see each other. They were able to see each other. And that is important in relationships. Especially if you want something to be everlasting long term. You want something temporary, then do you? Don't seek the counsel of God. So that's why we talk about scripture when it says that two becomes one. You know, however, is 1 + 1 = 3 because God has to be in that equation. That's how the math has to equal up. 1 + 1 = 3. God has to be a part of it, or it may not work. It may not be in your favor. So, there's some other scriptures we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at Matthew 19 verses 4-6. It says, "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one. Therefore, what God has joined together, let man not separate." You hear what I'm saying? So this is the thing when it comes to seeing yourself in your spouse. there's there's the physical law where you're married, okay, but it's another to be spiritually, naturally in sync, divinely connected to somebody spiritually. Oh, you can't break that apart. It's not easily broken. Once those strands are tied together, it's not easily broken or manipulated. Okay, so I had just a little thought when it talks about becoming one. That's why oftentimes a spouse should be able to speak for you, represent you in any circumstances, sing for you. You hear what I'm saying? They are you. That's the whole idea. They are you. This is why oftentimes we take for granted the fact that first ladies in the church, they sit there quietly while the preacher minister, because he's speaking on her behalf. She's in sync with him. Everything that he says, she supports because they are one. That's that. That's the concept. I hate to tell you the truth, but that is that. That's why sometimes somebody could, one spouse could be quiet and the other one can answer all the questions. They can finish each other's statements because they are one. And when you have not entered into a God-ordained marriage or situation, that's why it just may not work. It may not work because some pieces are missing. That spiritual connection is missing. The divinity of Christ is missing. So we have to get back to that. Can you see yourself in your spouse? Can you see them? When you look at them, and some people, they say after time you start to look like your spouse, and that may be true, but it's not necessarily physically. But can you see, do they represent who you are as a person? And you see the kindness, caring, concern in them that's in you. Do they have the same heart as you? Do they walk the same walk as you? The same talk as you? When people see them and you're like, oh, that's my boo thing over there. And they were like, oh, I see why you with him. I see why you with her. I get the same vibe, So that's the thing. And we've been talking about the movie Twilight, vampires and werewolves. No, we haven't been talking about vampires and werewolves, but just the concept of divine connection, and when you know. And the idea, one of the ideas that was presented in the movie was silence. When you could sit with somebody and still feel their heart, but not necessarily have any exchange of words. Remember, that was the case with Jacob and Rachel. When he encountered her, they didn't exchange words. There was none necessary. It was unnecessary to exchange words with his spouse because he already knew. And when you know, you know. So that's the thing. So sometimes you have to know that if you're not able to see yourself in them, they may not be the one. You better seek wise counsel like the servant did. You hear what I'm saying? And that's that. Okay. So, I believe in love. So I pray that if it's meant to be for you, let it be. You hear what I'm saying? And that's it. Okay. Be peace filled always. Walk in righteousness. Talk to you real soon. Take care.